As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They talk about the things they did that day. The land led the work of Triple H. Rewind to SmackDown. 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 Rewind to SmackDown.
And hello, everybody listening to us on our free feeds, whether it be on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you might be listening to this. Hello, all of you. Welcome to the brand new R-Man era of Rewind to SmackDown. All right, this is going to be a change for some of you guys. I mean, not that much of a change. We've been hearing from Neal, pretty often over the past year, but this is going to be a change in that this show is going to be even better. Okay. It's going to be amazing. And John Pollock, I know, is listening right now. He's saying, yes. I'm passing the torch on to the next generation. Everybody moves up a slot. All right. We're making space and we're building up the next in line. And Neal Flanagan, you are set to be the star in wait here. Welcome. What do you have to say to the public?
First of all, you're setting me up for failure with such an incredible introduction. What I will say is, to those who will miss John, I'm among you. I remember in the second year of Post Wrestling, you guys did a survey, and it was kind of, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? What do you like most? What shows do you like most, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember answering, and I was still just a caller at that stage. I hadn't even started working on the website, I wasn't a contributor as such of any kind. And one of my answers was on not missing is I will never miss a show that John and Wade do together. And I know that a lot of people, because of the chemistry between you guys, because you're the backbone of the whole network, and you're the A-team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. So I understand. Guys, if you miss John on this show, I totally understand. All I will say is that I will do my very best, and that is all I can do. And thank you to those who have been positive, even on YouTube, where positivity goes to die. I have seen some very nice comments about being able, my ability to step up into the role, and that's been very heartening because it's not usually where you see anything positive. You see snark, generally speaking, and others who have been privately in touch to say, good job, and I appreciate that. But
well said,
you're not going to get much in the way of impersonations from me, but it's not like John's gone away, and also it's not like this is likely to be forever. It's we know that these things change. Pollock and Thurston moved to Thursday nights for a very good reason, which is behind the scenes, but that robbed John of another weeknight. He simply couldn't then do Fridays as well. So, guys, it's me for the time being.
And me in this chair. Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, listen, I understand anytime any sort of change occurs, people are going to react a certain way. So, I mean, I just kind of feel like the reaction is entirely normal. I've certainly felt it at times when I might have stepped in and maybe altered, a prior person's, routine. And I'm sure John's felt it when he probably started and interrupted somebody else's prior routine. And everything just, we get accustomed to certain things, and it's completely understandable. So totally fine. All I ask is, hey, give us a chance, and maybe join us along for the ride as we continue to build our chemistry, Neal and I continue to build my comfort sitting in this chair, because this is all new to me still. I get a chance to try it once in a while, but I have big shoes. I think I have bigger shoes to fill than you do, Neal. Okay, you kind of have to fill my shoes, which are they're like 9, sometimes 8.5, not really that big. I got to fill John Pollock's lemon pepper steppers. Okay, it's that's a much bigger challenge.
Well, we're just going to glaze each other at this point, I think, Wade. But I mean, I think you do a tremendous job in the host chair, and as you said, up until this week, I had been stepping in pretty much once or twice a month anyway. So we've got some reps between us, and hopefully people will get used to it.
All right, enough chatter. By the way, if you wanted a little bit more of that chatter, we did go over a very extended edition of the news pack, and that is something that is, of course, one of Neal Flanagan's talents that he brings to the show, his roundup of the news every single time we host one of these. And of course, we had a big news day talking about Janel Grant publicly speaking for the first time and going into maybe our reactions into what she managed to say. By the way, in addition to Pollock and Thurston, breaking news is out there right now on the free feed for those of you who want to hear from John and Brandon Thurston on that topic today. We also spoke about recently unearthed Vince McMahon's 2025 car crash footage that was just released tonight. Dash cam footage and also body cam footage of his 2025 Bentley Continental crash that well, it could have been a whole lot worse. By the way, that was on the day, pretty much to the time actually of Hulk Hogan's death. So yeah. Very serious story there. AJ Styles, our reactions to his vlog and the revelation that he was planning to retire at WrestleMania 41. And then we also, of course, discussed Bianca Belair, Bad Bunny possibly being in talks with the WWE for a return, TNA Impact results, and a preview of the weekend shows. All of that can be found at postwrestlingcafe.com. Let's move on to tonight's edition of SmackDown. This one is taking place from the Amerant Bank Arena in Sunrise, Florida. WrestleTix has this at 10,895 tickets out. This is down from August of 2024 when Raw had 13,000 tickets out. So, but you know, still a very healthy crowd. How would you say they sounded tonight to you?
At times they sounded very up. Particularly, I think the biggest pop of the night probably went to Rhea Ripley. I felt that's in my notes at least when she came out. Other times I felt the miking was a bit weird. Even the entrance music seemed a little low in the mix or something. So I don't know whether the crowd were up and down or whether there was miking issues, but they sounded pretty good at times and crickets at other times.
So we start things off with Cody Rhodes, who is immediately interrupted by Jacob Fatu, who shows up, and Jacob isn't here to take issue with Cody. Although he says he had Cody and Sammy beat last week, he is instead here to call out Drew McIntyre, who did cost him the match. But instead, Nick Aldis shows up, and Nick Aldis saw all of this coming, and he has given Drew the night off so that the Chamber or WrestleMania are not put into jeopardy. Drew then appears in a private box, claiming that he loves SmackDown so much, he bought a luxury suite here to watch it. This prompts Jacob to crash out, as the kids would say, Neil. Yeah. And as you would say, actually, I hear you often use that phrase, crash out. Jacob has a crash out, and he violently takes out security. Aldis is able to calm him down by threatening to suspend him ahead of WrestleMania season. Fatu says, I need that. I need him. Drew says everyone is after him because he's the champ, to which Cody says everyone is after you because you're an asshole. So big reaction built up for Jacob Fatu here. And I found it interesting that they're continuing to, well, like Drew, is still continuing to fly the SmackDown flag here. He loves SmackDown so much that he bought a ticket. I wonder if there's any thought to just continuing to fan the flames between this unofficial rivalry between Raw's main event and SmackDown's main event ahead of WrestleMania. But that was just one of my reactions. What did you think about the opening segment?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good opener to the show, and particularly from Jacob Fatu, who I think is really growing into the role where he can really hold the opening segment of a show in this way. You know, it's often the biggest part of the show, the biggest talking part of the show at least, and he's tremendous on the mic. I think a few weeks ago, the segment with Cody where he walked in on him was really great, and the more he talks, the more I kind of really get captured by this character. And I love Drew as the heel champ as well. For me, the character that's beginning to look somewhat stale in all of this is Cody. I just feel like he's treading water almost. I know there have been hints. There have been hints coming and going about whether there's any kind of turn in the stars for Cody Rhodes. I'm now becoming a bit of an advocate for that, because as popular as he was with this crowd when he came out, I'm just personally getting a little bit tired of Boy Scout Cody, who's the QB1 and all of that. We see a little bit maybe later with Sammy that hints at that.
That to me is always lingering, especially as Drew. I feel 2 is flirting a bit with being a babyface. Again, he
Yeah.
talks of himself as like the leader of the SmackDown locker room in a very sort of like, I would say almost like admirable way. Like you don't really hate him for it. Like he kind of is flying the flag of the underdog team very proudly, and you kind of want to respect him for it. Meanwhile, Cody is flirting certainly with with more of a harder edge, as we will describe a little bit later on. So, a lot of shades of gray in the top mix here on this show. But I agree with you. I thought Jacob Fatu came across really well. So we go to Carmelo Hayes. He's with Ilja Dragunov in the back. And Dragunov does this incredibly big, very intense pep talk to Hayes. He's hyping him up so that Hayes can win his Elimination Chamber qualifier. And Hayes did not ask for any of this. Okay, like Dragunov is holding him by the neck at one point, and Hayes is just like, what are you doing? Keep your hands to yourself." He says, "Keep that energy for your own match because Melo don't miss." Dragunov says, "I'm sorry, I got carried away." He says, "I believe you, but you will not walk into WrestleMania as U.S. champ because they still have a match with each other down the line." So that is more to come. Nick Aldis is with Jacob Fatu. Aldis tells him to be patient, and he'll give him Drew. Jacob says he won't wait much longer. So he'll wait now, but not much longer. We get Dragunov versus Tama Tonga as our first match of the evening here. This one is taking place as Dragunov dominates early. Tama takes control after regrouping on the floor. Dragunov then comes back and delivers rolling German suplexes with the crowd chanting one more time. Dragunov later delivers a diving senton, and he sets up for the H-bomb, but JC Mateo distracts on the outside, which leads to Tama delivering the cutthroat for the victory. What do you think about the match?
I didn't think this was really Dragunov's best outing, and I don't know who to blame for that. There were a couple of missed boots. Barrett covered by saying, with nice movement by Tama Tonga to escape, and it was basically just a flub, a miss. His knee brace fell down. I don't know if you noticed way down from his thigh all the way down, and I don't know whether that impacted his movement at all, because there was a Constantine special as well, one of the early attempts that didn't look great. I don't know. It wasn't a great match. Somewhat clunky at times.
I don't disagree. I still find overall like Ilja Dragunov a lot of fun to watch. I in fact felt like the combination of styles made for one of Tama's like more exciting matches, but it was overall definitely lower on the Dragunov side with a very cliche interference finish here. So it seems to put Tama ahead of Dragunov to challenge for the U.S. Championship. Although later on in the show, I mean, even that seems to be put on pause because he is at least part tag team champion here. But it also seems to set up Dragunov to team with some of the other SmackDown mid-carders in order to challenge the MFTs. So more on this in the next segment as Solo Sikoa speaks. He says, "You thought I was playing. This is my show, and this is what's going to happen from now on." So Dragunov at this point tries to attack, but he just gets beaten up again. So out come Matt Cardona and Apollo Crews, who I think you could say are at least doing better than the SmackDown tag team roster, okay? Like in the pecking order of like who I'd rather be, I think I'd still favor Cardona and Crews.
At least you get to leave backstage, I guess, if you're Matt Cardona.
You get to
Apollo
run,
Crews.
at least. You don't just have to stand there or lay face down.
Yeah.
Right? So
although they did feel like an afterthought. I mean, Cardona just was on camera suddenly and was like, "Oh, look, it's the partner from last week."
Well, it was entirely just to feed to Talatonga, who takes both of them out pretty much immediately. The lights cut out, and Uncle Howdy appears on the screen. He says, "Solo, you use your family as a crutch, so you're still left standing. If you're the shining light, then it's time to show everyone that you can stand on your own." As Howdy says, he'll be alone the next time he comes out, but will you show up? So, we have one of many like storylines involving the babyface challenging the heel to abandon his faction and face his opponent one-on-one. We saw it with Balor and Punk already. We're seeing it with here Uncle Howdy challenging Solo Sikoa to abandon his faction so that you can challenge me one-on-one, and we're about to see it one more time and later on in this show. Maybe it's that time of season.
I was already totally uninterested in this MFTs versus the Wyatts feud, but this is the new wrinkle in it, I guess.
Solo versus Uncle Howdy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you think you think you're going to get a clean match with no interference? I kind of doubt it.
No, I can't say I'm that interested. I'm really ready for these tag titles to switch hands, just so we can just abandon this. I gotta say I'm disappointed in this feud. I feel like there's some potential in having like these two groups face each other, but I don't think the matches have been very spectacular. I don't think the promos certainly have like been all that great, and I think they should just pivot to like having like these incredible like 5-on-5 anarchy in the arena types of brawls, just to at least give us some sort of like spectacle that might be attached to these in ring, because the match is straightforward. Just I don't think I've been doing that much for
No, they
anybody.
haven't. And I feel like you and John talked about this, that they've improved the pacing of the 3 hour SmackDown, and I think that is true. But one of the things I missed from this time last year is the thriving tag division. And one of the saving graces of the 3 hour SmackDowns in 2025 was you got the Machine Guns and you got DIY and you got the Profits, and you had in tremendous matches, and there was generally the wrestling highlight of the show each week. I'd much rather see the belts are kind of secondary to that. I'd much rather see Fraxame, etc. Just really having good matches on this show, and I don't understand with the time that they have to burn why they're not doing it, particularly in the run up to a PLE where they've got the pieces largely in place for that. So they've got TV time.
Backstage, Aldis yells at Drew for crossing the line, and Drew says, "Calm down," and he leaves. Orton is with Byron Saxton, and he's asked about facing Cody in the chamber, trying to stir that pot, which leads to Aleister Black and Zelina Vega interrupting. And Zelina says, "There's only one road for you to take, Randy." Get it? Road? Yeah. Black says in the past the locker room feared him. So where's that man? Orton says the only version of him that he needs to kick his ass is the one that's standing in front of him. So he challenges Aleister Black to a match for tonight. And as Orton walks away, Black says he'll be the shovel that'll dig the old Randy back up. So this is exactly, I mean, he and Zelina are really just recast as Karrion Kross and Scarlett from about a year ago, whose entire character was, I'm going to like annoy the shit out of these baby faces. I'm going to get them to challenge me to a match. I'm probably going to eventually lose to them, but I'm going to claim some sort of moral victory by having them show a bit of a harder edge and maybe even, turn heel in the process.
That appears to be exactly the role that they're filling. Zelina gets to say a little more than Scarlett did. She's used to just more or less stand there. But this is just rubbish. It's kind of, they seem to be alluding to where's the Randy who used to do the punt. That seemed to be the idea here. We should poke around in your head and all of that. I can't do the accent, but it's not good. I don't know.
You don't need to try. It's okay. Well, we can just imagine it. Although you doing like a Northern Irish accent in place of Aleister Black talking, I think would have its own charms. So Byron Saxton is in the back. He's with the Irresistible Forces. Do you know who they are, Neil?
Oh yes, that's Nia and Lash.
Do you like that name for that team?
It feels very 80s or 90s to me. The Irresistible Forces. It works. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
But it's a very throwback tag team name for these two.
Sure. Yeah, it's like a Strike Force type of name, So they have a tag title match lineup against Rhea and Io next week, and then this interview was really weird, and it's one of those where like when you're just watching in passing, like it's just okay, it's a wrestling segment, but when you really think about it, Byron asked them a question, and Nia's first answer is, I don't have time. So she goes on to talk about like, I mean, her own thing, and and then like Byron pivots and asks a different question, to which Lash says, I don't have time. We don't have time. And they just leave. why even like stand around for this interview if all you're going to say is that you don't have time? You know, why not just like turn down the interview
It's a
anyway?
very good question. Why are they even there with Byron? Look at their faces here. They clearly don't have time. Yeah, they just sort of say,
Their one
"Guys, you know."
direction in this is to act like you're really, really busy and you don't have time.
The only thing I will say about Lash and Nia together is I kind of like their chemistry. I feel like there is at least some.
Yeah,
In contrast to Charlotte and Alexa, I'm afraid, who have had far longer to try and build some up. These two kind of work quite well together, even though this whoever scripted this needs to have a good look at themselves in the mirror.
I'll certainly say there is about 3,000 times more chemistry between these two than I feel between Alexa and Charlotte, who I think they've been trying to really smother us with for about a year now. So that is still to come. Jade Cargill has the microphone. She says that Jordan Grace's best wasn't good enough last week. She knows Liv will make her decision on Monday in Atlanta, so I guess announcing that. And Atlanta also happens to be where Jade lives, so she will be there in person to get not selected. Because I don't see Liv Morgan not choosing Stephanie Becerra at this point. Jade says who whether Liv chooses her or if it's somebody who wins the chamber, and she then names off all the competitors, but does give, I think, a notable dramatic pause ahead of saying Rhea, which does lead to the biggest reaction of the bunch. She says she's still that bitch. So I thought it was like an okay, promo at the level you would expect from Jade. I think she's still feeling very generic as a heel at the moment as champion without any sort of significant, partner to play off of. It seems very obvious to me like the pick is Rhea for her ahead to, of Mania. Do you see any different?
I don't see any different. I think I agree with you entirely that this feels almost telegraphed who the choices are going to be. And also that, this very by the numbers Jade promo. And it's not helped by her booking over the last few months and, the fact that she hasn't had any meaningful competition. And that even gets highlighted later in this episode as well.
Yeah. So we've seen the transformation. I mean, I hope you would agree that I think has made Stephanie Becerra so much more interesting, being paired next to Liv Morgan and Dom Mysterio and actually having something to be really upset about, or at least having a chance to show real fire. We've yet to have that with Jade, and hopefully that'll start to happen once we find out who her opponent is after Chamber.
I hope so. I think that's right. She needs somebody to play off, and Michin and B-Fab ain't it.
Charlotte walks out for her qualifier, and of course, Jade comes out to exchange some looks at her holding up the belt, teasing a match. But by the end of the segment, by the end of the night, we will know that this was just a bit of a red herring here. So we get our match here for the Elimination Chamber Women's qualifier between Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, and Kiana James here. Kiana wants to suggest a truce with Nia early on to work against Charlotte, but Nia starts choking her before Charlotte chop blocks her. After a commercial break, Charlotte dominates, delivering her standing buckshot lariat and then a number of chops. With both women laying down, Charlotte delivers a moonsault, which Wade says landed perfectly, and I guess if her aim was to land knees first directly onto Nia Jax. Nia catches Charlotte in a Samoan drop with an awkward landing. James then delivers a Samoan drop of her own onto Nia, which gets one of the stronger reactions of the entire match. Charlotte delivers a Spanish fly to James for 2. James then sends Nia to the outside where Charlotte catches her into a figure 4. But before she can turn it into a figure 8, Nia delivers a big leg drop. We go up top as Nia attempts an avalanche Samoan drop, but Charlotte turns it into a sunset bomb. She tries the figure 8 one more time, but then in comes Kiana James, who slides underneath Charlotte's bridge, and she turns it into a crucifix pin, leading into an upset victory.
Yeah. I've got to say, halfway through this match, I was thinking to myself, they're consistently talking up Kiana James, and really they have been doing that for several weeks at this point. And by the end of the match, of course, and it was a very, very nice finish, and quite a clever one. My thought was, gosh, they really are pushing Kiana James. I don't know what this means for her and Giulia together. I guess we shall see. And I don't see Kiana being involved in anything very major in the run up to WrestleMania. We do, they do have 2 nights to play, but we shall see. But it all tells me that they're serious about Kiana James. You're muted, Way.
Sorry about that. It definitely shows you a potential that they see in here that I don't think we've seen yet as an audience. Maybe other than like some glimpses you might have seen down in NXT. But to put her in this like relatively high profile match, with like all former champions here next to Stratton, Rhea, Alexa, Asuka so far. I mean, she essentially is the project here. She is going to be the person that we're supposed to leave this match with thinking about and having sort of a renewed, respect for. And I find that interesting because here we have Giulia, who I don't think is even at that level yet. So I don't mind it. I mean, there's some talent there. I just wish the character introduction made a little bit more sense because I feel like this version of James is entirely different from what we've been like presented to her as this entire time. She started off as like what was it like Adam Pearce's like brand manager or something?
That's right. Yeah.
Then she was gone forever due to injury, and she reemerges as a sort of like similar type of manager for Giulia or translator or something. That was never even clear. But now she's suddenly a better wrestler than Giulia herself, or at least like in a position to be higher on the card than Giulia herself. So that's the only part that I feel is kind of missing something. Like, what did she do to suddenly become so good? Like was she like training in the mountains or something? Like, or like did she like get access to some like super soldier drug that made this brand manager like suddenly so great as a wrestler?
There really is something of a storyline hole here, that this brand manager who is the go between for the US Women's Champion to book her matches and so on is suddenly one of the best women on the roster, without much explanation. It does feel rather weird.
Yeah, really. So hopefully they do some of that in the lead up to the chamber. Rio is asked about the result here, and Rhea is happy that Nia didn't win. Io says that what's her, Kiana James's partner won't be so lucky tonight because she'll be facing Rhea Ripley. Io speaks as if she's already qualified for the chamber and tells Rhea, "May the best woman win," which kind of telegraphs, doesn't it to you that Io is unlikely to enter the chamber?
I feel so. Yeah, that's my suspicion as well.
We shall see. This could be a swerve on top of the swerve. Okay, they could just be trying to make us think that. We go up next to Kit Wilson versus Oba Femi here. Full entrance for Wilson, who grabs the mic after the bell rings, and he says, "From feminist to feminist, I want to give you a poem." And the poem is titled "An Ode to Oba Femi." And please forgive me, everybody, because I'm not. I didn't have it in me to transcribe everything. Forgive my doubt. I now see the greatness people talk about. You were born to reign. All these people chant your name. But when I see it, I wrote, "When I look into your eyes, I see a teddy bear." It doesn't even rhyme, so I don't.
No, it didn't rhyme at the end. I think you probably transcribed it correctly. Yeah, it sort of fell off a cliff at the end. It was going fairly well.
So Femi plays as if like he says, "Isn't that nice? Read me another one." And Wilson kind of has to scramble in his book because he doesn't have any. Instead, he finds an old one titled Nine Things I Hate About Men." Yes. They're always complaining about the size of their beef bayonets.
Beef bayonets, that's a new one, yeah.
They strut like They tend to strut like a self.
Not complaining about the size of their beef bayonets.
Neal, would you like to take over? I think you can do a much better rereading of this.
I've only got some very basic notes, but it was comparing the size of their beef bayonets. It's one of the things he hates about men.
Got it. Okay. Eventually, somehow, it leads to Oba realizing that this poem is about him, and I'm taking it this was a thing that actually angered him, or at least allowed him to finally turn this into the squash that I think we all expected it to be. He throws Kit Wilson around, fall from grace, and gotta say, Neal, I mean, lest our YouTube comments come after me this time, this one didn't land so much for me. I feel like this, since the music had debuted, was I think one of the first misses. I thought this segment went on for way too long.
Yeah, agreed. way. We get the full kit entrance, which I'm fine with. We get the tune, even though the novelty of that cannot last forever, to be frank. But for the time being, it's still kind of novel. It's still kind of catchy. It's fine. But this whole poetry thing, I don't know. I was on the fence a little bit at first because it took me back to the Genius, and Lanny Poffo doing his poems as a heel, and that was kind of, part of my childhood and whatnot. But this went on far too long, and it was very, very silly as well because we are to believe that Kit had no option but to read out the final line, which was, "I hate your ruler, Oba, your toxicity," or whatever. Like he couldn't have just made something else. He couldn't have thought of two other syllables, whatever. And that's why, Oba did what he was always going to do, of course, and squash him. I don't know. It's a little bit weak. Some of the comedy here, I think there's still potential, but I'm beginning to think that this character has a shelf life that may be shorter than I first expected when we got the uptick with the new theme music and some genuine stuff to laugh at. This segment really was too long, wasn't particularly funny, and can just show how quickly it can go downhill, I think, for Kit Wilson.
Yeah, I feel like this character works best in short spurts, and I simply thought that this took too much time, and also like the poetry. I know it's not supposed to be good, but when you just give me like very bad poetry for like an extended period of time, I mean I think I kind of get resentful of the attempt at the joke. On top of that, I thought Femi kind of had his edge taken down a bit a little here by interacting with Wilson for so long. Like he has a freshness attached to him that I could take very seriously. Like people are like we're thinking he might be him versus Brock Lesnar. And so for him to interact this long with somebody so low on the card rather than just coming out and completely destroying him, I think waters him down just a tad. So maybe this is the end of this for now.
Yeah, I hope so.
So, all right. Aldous is in, he's with the big box, and Truth is here. He thinks that this is an Elimination Chamber award. Aldous says, "Don't you mean a Slammy?" And Truth says he's never heard of that. That was the punchline, everybody. I'm not really missing anything from the recap. It was about exactly that.
Yeah. Well, there's some balls talk as well.
Oh, of course. How could I forget the ball jokes? Priest arrives. Truth thinks that he and Priest are both in the chamber qualifier, but Aldous reminds him that it's only Priest, and this is where Truth talks about balls. So then Aldous tells the PA to send the box back to Raw. So just a real pointless segment, reminding us that a box does exist, and we're going to get it ping-ponged from Raw to SmackDown every single week, perhaps.
Yeah. I'm getting gobbledygooker vibes, and I'm old enough to remember watching Wrestling Challenge and Superstars when the egg was on there every week. I think there could be a disappointment when this box is opened. I hope not, but we'll see.
At the very least, we'll only get one more week of all of this, and then we'll get the reveal next Saturday. Tiffany Stratton versus Alba Fire is a match that I don't think they announced beforehand, but nonetheless, we are getting here. Chelsea is out with her wheelchair. She's tossing her newspaper. Stratton, of course, has already qualified for the chamber, but Chelsea blames Stratton for breaking her ankle, and therefore we're getting this match. Very little reaction for Alba Fire being in control here. This was, oh man, this crowd is chanting, "We want Chelsea." They're chanting for the one person who's not in this match.
Yeah.
And did you watch through the commercial break?
No, at this point, no. I hadn't caught it.
You spared yourself quite the torture here, because this was just like one of the longer hard cam chin locks that we've seen in the current era from Alba Fire here. It was really boring. Stratton Stratton attempts a superplex Falcon Arrow combo that I think it was supposed to be some sort of Falcon Arrow backbreaker, and as they showed these replays, Wade calls out how ugly the landing was for the superplex, and then like really kind of stumbles to try to identify what the Falcon Arrow was. Fire then delivers a gory bomb for a 2 count. Chelsea gets up from the wheelchair to yell at Stratton. This distraction leads to a suicide dive from Fire. Stratton then delivers a Finley roll and then hits the prettiest moonsault ever for the victory.
Yeah, this was bad. It was a very messy match, and I think even the length it was, it outstayed its welcome. And I think I didn't time it, but I can guarantee that it felt longer than it actually was. The crowd were totally disengaged. There was, as you say, some terrible flubs in the match, and I'll equally apportion blame, but it wasn't good, and even the Chelsea stuff in the wheelchair and whatnot.
This newspaper thing. Like, so what's like what is this?
We're
Can you
told that
explain this to me?
she's tossing out newspaper headlines about her injury. I think that's what they told us on commentary, that she's giving out to the crowd from the wheelchair. I don't quite understand what
I know,
that even
I know she's
means.
been doing this for weeks. I understand, and I know there's probably some like reasonable explanation for it. I just, like, for the life of me, can't remember why she's suddenly throwing out newspapers. And I know, Brian, you're probably going to tell me in the chat room right away. But I don't think it's received much support, other than like seeing her throw out newspapers, or like, seeing Alba Fire pass out newspapers in the back. Nonetheless, this crowd loves Chelsea Green, okay? And I think this points to a problem with Tiffany Stratton, but with the fact that she is the lone babyface in this match, and this crowd is instead chanting for the heel who's in the wheelchair, sitting on the outside. So, I mean, Stratton is a spectacular performer, but I wouldn't say is necessarily that much more over, or even over at all, as a babyface coming back from her layoff than, well, somebody like Chelsea Green, who, I mean, very much has organically captured this crowd with her, I would say, performances and underdog appeal if you watch Unreal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always been Tiffany's problem. I think has always been the character side of things seems very kind of one-dimensional. It's all based around tapping the wrist and saying it's Tiffy time, and there's not really much more to it than that. And when she has shone, it's because the program has really been very good. When she was paired with Becky, for example. In this current incarnation, she's not compelling. And I think that's an issue. And perhaps again just needs to be paired up with somebody better as a first step.
I think it's a heel turn. I think that's probably where they're going to go.
Yeah, maybe so.
So we'll see whenever that happens. We go to Cody Rhodes, who's in the back, and he sees a very sulking Sami Zayn here, who says, "Chin up. You have nothing to be ashamed of after losing your match last week." Sami says, "It's you who should be ashamed, Cody." He says he tried to help Cody when Drew McIntyre interfered in their match, and instead Cody took advantage and hit him with the crossroads, putting a knife into his back. Cody says he took advantage of the opportunity, and these opportunities have come to you too, Sami, but you never took advantage, and that's why you've never been WWE champion. Sami says that's easy for you to say. You were chosen, Golden Boy. He says you got to finish your story, but I was never chosen. Which I think is also LA Knight and Chelsea Green's gimmick right now as well, if you're watching Unreal. He says, I've been trying to finish my story for 10 damn years. You don't know what it's like to constantly do the right thing and have it blow up in your face. Cody then gets really hot upon hearing this. He says, where were you in Germany when Jacob Fatu showed up? I tried to do the right thing, and it cost me everything. He says, it's not me. It's not the system. The only thing in your way is you. Sami then just has a big crash out, Neal. He slaps a big bottle of water away from a crate, and he just is really mad. What did you think about this portion of this scene first?
I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the best parts of this show, because what I'm looking for in these characters is something somewhat believable and some complexity on occasion, just, to see that. And so we've got Sami, who he's pissed off with Cody, for taking advantage and pinning him last week. And when he's taken to task about it, as you say, he sort of crashes out. And I just thought that was interesting. And we'll get to it, but because someone else enters the scene. But when he later goes to apologize to Cody for what he said to the crowd, you can hear the crowd who are watching this on the video screen booing. They don't like that. They want Sammy to be a bit more edgy. So I thought this portion of it was really pretty good.
Trick Williams steps in and he gets a massive ovation just upon walkout here. He's at that level now. We're simply seeing him. People are reacting really, really big. So he says he's going to do something that Sami Zayn isn't going to do, and that's get the job done. Sami becomes even more angry at this as he runs back over to Cody. And as Neal mentions, he goes over to actually apologize to Cody. And he says Cody is right about everything he said. And he knows Cody will be champion again. But remember that you had some help along the way. And you did hear some faint Sami sucks chants in the background here. I thought Sami was just... I mean, he's great. I think he could, to me, I know people might complain about, any sort of, compliments about acting in professional wrestling, but I think Sami is one of the stronger actors they have in the WWE on this roster. And getting to see him, looking sad, I think to me is actually very captivating. He's so sad that he's not even asking the champion for a title shot. He's asking somebody who thinks will eventually be champion before him for a title shot for an IOU from 2 years ago. That's what he's kind of asking for here. This is the situation. This is how low he's stooped. He's not qualifying for the Rumble. He's not qualifying for the Chamber match even. He needs to resort to asking for an IOU from WrestleMania 40 in order to get his title shot.
I think it's genuinely interesting because I feel like the creative, as much as we can talk about bad creative, I highly suspect they've got some plans for this, for where they're taking Sami. You can sort of see that. And I'm interested in where it's all going to go because I think, like you said, and it's all relative, but in the space of pro wrestling, I think the acting job Sami's doing with this is really pretty good. And I'm here for this, to see which way he's going to turn.
It's interesting that this is coming with Cody because he himself is kind of playing with well, you heard it from him here. He felt disappointment upon trying to do the right thing against Drew McIntyre in that 3 stages of hell match, and it's cost him. So now you're seeing a rougher edge with him. So he himself is flirting with, more of a heelish turn. You're kind of telling the same story with Sami here, but I think with Sami, maybe there's even more at stake because he's never touched this championship before, or he's never won it, and therefore he has even more reason to have a big blow up. And I think they're deliberately making us wait for it. They probably are encouraged by these Sami sucks chants as a result of him apologizing because they know that they're trying to make the audience want this guy to finally give into his anger and to unleash a new level of himself. We go to our next qualifier match here. This is Melo versus Trick Williams versus Damian Priest. This is, as far as I can recall, our first actual main roster interaction between Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah, I think so.
And they made no big deal out of it whatsoever. Not even a scene in the back. I mean, they did try to play it up in the match itself here because we start things off here with Trick and Melo kind of acknowledging each other and Trick almost offering to partner with Melo. And this is where Wade and Tessitore kind of casually mentioned them being former friends who aren't anymore due to jealousy issues. That's about as much as, references we'll get to that. Priest is quick to break this up, and after the break, the crowd is really into Trick. He does this he tries to do a fancy lift into a bookend, but loses Melo early, so he kind of has to awkwardly just pick him up to deliver it again. The Razor's Edge is delivered to Trick, but Melo catches Priest with nothing but net. Trick breaks that up. Now Trick and Melo are working together against Priest, but this does not last long because they interrupt each other's pins. Priest has Melo up for the Razor's Edge, but Trick then delivers 2 trick shots to get the victory in what I thought was an overall good match. What did you think?
I thought this was solid. Yeah, that's the word I would use to describe it. I think Trick has an incredibly high ceiling, and the crowd already really like him. I think the match exposed him a tiny bit. There were a couple of, if you really want to nitpick on the in-ring, but it doesn't matter because he's got that charisma, he's got the crowd in the palm of his hands, and it was a good outing for him. And yeah, I thought this was a solid match.
Yeah, Trick entering this chamber match, I mean, feels to me like a pretty predictable conclusion, just given how over he is, how much they're trying to work with him. I guess it just like really does show how much better he is adjusting to the main roster, or how much harder he's being pushed on the main roster compared to Carmelo Hayes, who had a year jump on him and was his senior. So size, maybe charisma, that certainly accounts for a whole lot. The SmackDown Tag Team Division, they're in the back. Their job on this particular show is to try to guess what is in the box. They're gathered around speculating, and Candice LeRae leads Nick Aldis here to point towards Johnny Gargano being at the very top of the box, continuing his faceplant gimmick. And Jordan Grace then interrupts to talk to Nick Aldis, and Candice argues with her for interrupting. Aldis, seeing two women in front of him, decides to make this into a match for next week. So, in this tag team division segment, we are somehow led into a women's match. So, man, imagine being like Los Garzas, the Motor City Machine Guns, or Fraxium, or even Johnny Gargano, making your way all the way out here to spend your whole day waiting just so you could be in the background.
Yeah.
This scene.
In particular, Angel Umberto and the Machine Guns who are sort of flanked either side. They're the wings of the television screen, and they just have to stand there like dorks and not say anything. And why are we also? What are we to make of why Gargano or how Gargano got up there? Was he attacked by the other tag teams?
No. This is a willing planking, isn't it? Like he's been doing every week.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, I was away last week. So.
That would actually be interesting, Neil. No, instead he's so like mentally, I guess, anguished from losing the Fraxia mask, and I guess losing his partner too. And being a part of this tag team division, that he's just like, he's depressed, I guess, is how we're supposed to think of it.
Yeah, it's a very odd situation for the man because he's not in a tag team anymore, and yet he's.
I thought after Candice took him away, Candice, like last time we saw, Candice said something like to the effect of like, "I'm gonna fix this." Well, what did she fix? Like she did nothing. So I thought that would reveal like a new partner or something. That's revealed nothing. We're back to square one with Gargano, and for this poor tag team division, on this 3-hour show, still getting no ring time is really, really strange. Really strange to see. Jade is with returning B-Fab and Michin backstage, and this is where Michin threatens to take her title ahead of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
What do you think? Michin headlining night 1 or night 2 this year?
Maybe B-Fab. Yeah. It's put your money down.
I might have had a bit more patience for this, like during Survivor Series season or something, but like, come on, WrestleMania season, like these two have no place anywhere threatening to be near the championship or even the champion.
No, and wasn't even a fan of Jade flinching at the sort of kendo stick shots. She should be so far above these two that she's just laughing them off, and it looks as though she's probably going to have a squash match with one or other of them in the next couple of weeks.
Maybe. All right, let's go up next to Rhea Ripley versus Giulia. This one is a bit interesting in that for most of the day, this was advertised as Giulia versus Io Sky. But like for whatever reason, they swapped it out with Rhea. So don't know necessarily the reason for that. Maybe it'll come out very shortly. So Giulia targets Rhea's ribs early on. When we come back from commercial break, Rhea delivers a cheeky Nando's kick and then an electric chair facebuster. She goes for the riptide. Giulia fights back with a Rivederci. She goes for the Northern Lights bomb. Rhea avoids and goes for the riptide. But here come Nia and Lash, who interrupt to cause the DQ. And that was that. What did you think about all this?
unfortunate finish to the match because, as I said earlier in the review, Rhea got an enormous pop. The crowd seemed fairly invested in this match as it went along. I thought Giulia and Rhea were doing pretty well, and in fact, it had the makings of probably the best match on the show. And then, of course, we get the shitty finish, which is probably to be expected, but nonetheless disappointing.
I don't think you should be expecting this stuff. I mean, it's just I like this was it was disappointing, of course, because I mean, I actually really wanted to see Io versus Giulia first of all, so maybe that
Yeah.
might have been a first disappointment. But then to get this match and having it result in a pretty like strong match, but with such a poor creative finish that ultimately was only there to number one put Rhea Ripley on screen, I suppose, because she's a big star, but number two build to your Raw tag team match. I kind of felt was. I feel like there was a better way for them to get there, but anyway, Io comes out to save her. Big tag match on Monday. The Miz is with Femi backstage. Now that Cena is gone, Miz says he's here to guide the new generation. Femi says, if you want to show me the ropes, well, how about I talk to Nick Aldis and you can face me next week. So that's a match next week. Alexa
Well,
and
I hate to interrupt, Way, but this was high comedy, in fact, because Miz said he would show him the ropes, and then Oba was like, "Well, why don't you show me the ropes next week?" And Miz is like, "Yeah, great idea." And then it was, his realization that he meant a match, and he's like, "No, I didn't mean that."
listen, this was way better than the R-Truth segment or like the SmackDown tag team segment. Like on the level, this was probably like top 3 segments on this entire show.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll tell you what was not was Alexa and Charlotte. They're in the back. Charlotte is upset about losing, but Alexa says, well, she's playing off like she's not upset, and she's trying to do like a whole like, I'm a new me, I'm evolved, I'm calm,
Yes.
Alexa says it's okay to be upset. Charlotte says that she has famously evolved because she's got she points to her bejeweled outfit as part of the explanation. This is when Kiana James interrupts her, and James taunts her, says she's got a and then Alexa says, I feel terrible, like even trying to recap all this. Alexa says, didn't you have a plan for Giulia to become a triple champ? What are you doing in the Elimination Chamber? So then James says that they have a working relationship, unlike you two. Alexa laughs at some suggestion that they're the strongest duo on the roster, and this is what Giulia shrieks at them as the scene ends. I don't know how John did this for as long as no wonder he left. Like recapping 3 hours of this writing is just, my voice is dying.
Yeah, no, this was absolute dog shit. And in fairness to what you're saying about John, this I think was objectively worse than usual. This segment made
show
no
is-
sense.
man.
It was bad.
These backstage skits, they're just awful, and they're endless. Like next week we got Rio versus the Irresistible Forces, Howdy versus Solo, and I guess Miz versus Femi. So we hear from the MFTs as Solo says he's proud of Tama. He says he'll be U.S. champ one day, but for now they have to focus on the tag team titles and the Wyatts. So this is when Shinsuke Nakamura walks up to Tama, and Nakamura says that he's proud of. Oh, he asked Tama if he's proud of being in someone's shadow, and he says if he's capable of being nothing more than a soldier. He says he's being held back from being his own man, and he says that the next time they compete, he tells him to leave his family tree in the forest. So again, similar plot device to CM Punk and Finn Balor, and also earlier on the show, I don't even remember who did the same thing.
It was the Wyatt. It was Uncle Howdy.
Uncle Howdy. Thank you. Okay, so I guess at least they're in the same faction. They're
Yes.
telling the 2 people in this faction to leave their faction behind. Okay, all right.
I preferred this one though because Shinsuke at least has some magnetism and personality about him, and frankly, anything that adds any depth to one of the MFTs is something.
We go to our main event here. This is Aleister Black versus Randy Orton here. As Zelina distracts to give Black the advantage. I'm sorry, my patience runs very low when we're towards the very end, so my notes are going to be very sparse. Zelina distracts to give Black the advantage. Orton attacks. For some reason, he shouts "Whoop that trick" as he's facing Aleister Black, and not in Nashville, which I believe is like the origin of that phrase. He delivers a draping DDT. Black avoids the RKO on the floor. They work around the table, where Orton delivers a draping DDT to Black off the desk. Drew McIntyre then comes in and he smashes Orton with the championship. Cody comes in to chase him away. Black hits Orton with the Black Mass for the victory. A rare Aleister Black victory. So, your thoughts on all this?
So yeah, Aleister is rocketed to the top of the card after this amazing victory. Sarcasm, obviously, but I don't know. This was whatever it was. You know, I expected some kayfabe fuckery at the end of this match, and that's exactly what we got. And I don't have an awful lot more to say about it. I wasn't compelled by this match being the main event of the show on paper anyway. And it really didn't disappoint in that respect.
It is the type of win for Aleister Black that really has you not thinking about Aleister Black at all. He basically lucked out into a victory here that, I mean, I'm sure he'll have reason to continue to taunt Randy Orton following this, and I'm sure Randy eventually will get his win back. But it's not the type of win that I think moves Aleister Black up on the card in anybody's mind, in my opinion. Instead, this was served to, I think, further Orton and Cody, because they've been teasing that, of course, and Cody comes out here standing above, pretty much knocked out Randy Orton, and I like somehow this will probably lead to Orton blaming Cody for the victory as we head towards a potential Orton Cody feud coming out of the chamber. So that might be a main direction. Your thoughts overall on tonight's edition of SmackDown?
Just one post note was
yes, of course.
After the credits, we did get a graphic saying "in loving memory of Kerwin Sylphies," which I thought was a nice touch, because it's quite often that the behind the scenes folks don't get that love, and although it was almost literally an afterthought to put it on after the credits, it's better than nothing, So I did like that, but.
This follows Jim Shank, who received a similar graphic on the February 9th edition of Raw.
Yeah. But to your original question, this was a really bad episode of SmackDown. I don't know whether it's because they knew it was a preempted show and they did promote quite hard in the sort of last third of the show that, we're back on the USA Network next week. But
this was a show where I certainly felt the drag, and that came in the form of like matches that just really had no business being as long as they were, or even existing in the first place, like an Alba Fire versus Tiffany Stratton. Like nobody really they didn't give us a strong enough reason. I know there's an ankle break, but like there's just no interest in the match itself, and matches that had terrible finishes, that left you very unsatisfied, like, in the case of Rhea versus Giulia. But we did have some news here. Kiana James getting that sort of upset win, entering the chamber. Sami Zayn, I think, showing a lot of fire in his loss, as he typically does. So we wonder if that actually is going to lead to a significant change in his character. Trick Williams getting a great reaction. Jacob Fatu, I think, getting a pretty decent one too. Any other standout things for you?
That's about it, as I have noted as the highlights. And for a 3-hour show, that's not enough way, is it really? Shit.
No, the Kip Wilson segment I thought was a dud this week.
Me too.
Yeah. So those are our thoughts on SmackDown. Let us know what you guys thought, and certainly in the feedback section. But also, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And hope you guys will stick around with this edition of Rewind of SmackDown. Let us know your thoughts. Give us some feedback, okay? Constructive criticism. What can we do better? Be kind, but please be engaged. That's all we ask of you. So stay tuned, everybody, in the Post Wrestling Cafe. Goodbye to all of you guys listening on our free feeds.